Hello, tout le monde. Today we will be making some bar chart graphs with SwiftUI 2.0. And I know that in the recent years, the data visualizations are has gone crazy, but I believe that most of the time, nearly 99% of the time, a simple chart will do just fine, and um we are gonna make just that. So I've just created an empty SwiftUI project. Alright, I'm gonna use the new iPhone 12 Pro as my preview device. Let's embed our content in a navigation view, and I'm just gonna mark this up as navigation, and I'm going to give it a navigation bar title as, let's say, graphs, and the display mode is gonna be auto. Actually, all we need in order to make a bar chart is the capsule view. So I'm gonna give it a frame of, let's say, width 300 and height 12 should be enough, yes, but it is in the wrong color. This will be our background, so I'm gonna give it a very light gray color, such as maybe system gray 5 should be good, yes. And what I need to do is embed this in a Z stack, and now in this one it's important to give it an alignment, and I'm gonna give it an alignment of leading, and I'm also gonna mark this down to save my eyes, and I'm gonna create another capsule for the inside element. Let's also give it a frame. This can be 100, and height's gonna be also 12, and they are gonna be on top of each other. So let's make this green. Gonna continue and give it some text for the context. Let's embed this in a VStack and give it some context. For example, a little text which is gonna say what's the meaning of this bar line. So it should also have a leading alignment, and I'm gonna also make it a little smaller, such as caption styles should be good, yes. And also I want it to show me some percentage. Let's make another text view that can show us the percentage value. All right, and this is also a little too big, and let's make it caption size. So this was H stack, and this is V stack, and this is the Z stack. Let's refactor our code a little bit, and I'm gonna extract this view as a sub view, and I'm gonna call it bar graph item. Should be explicit enough, and I'm gonna move this navigation bar title to its correct place. And now we have a prototype bar line and some texts. Let's make them more dynamic instead of hard coding them to values. Actually, let's get hold of the screen size for start, and this is gonna be a CG float data type, and I'm gonna call the UI screen dot main dot bounds dot size dot height. It's a little bit verbose, and I'm actually gonna make this a private property. Let's make the distinction here. This is props, and these are gonna be my privates props. So let's calculate some width value for the size of our line, and I'm gonna say this maximum width, and it's also gonna be a CG float, and let's say let's make it 0.8% of the screen width, and let's use it in the background capsule, and I'm gonna say self max width. Oops. Yes, I made a mistake. This should be width. Alright, it's already become more dynamic, but we need to take some data and calculate our inset views, our subviews of the graph. So I'm just gonna make a custom data model in, let's say, for the tutorial, I think I can use the bottom of the document, and I'm gonna mark it down as the models, and let's say struct graph data, bar graph data, and must inherit from identifiable and hashable objects, and let's give it a ID object, and let's make it calculate that ID, and it's gonna have a name, and this should be a string, and also a value of integer, enough for our purposes. Okay, in our main view, I'm gonna make some data for our graph, and call it just data, and define it. And I'm just gonna make up some values, for example, first records and value of, let's say, 20. All right, and I'm gonna make a list view for our graph, and I'm gonna mark it down as always, and I will create a for each loop for the data items. Actually, we need a total value of all the values that's gonna end up in our graph to calculate their percentage. So I'm just gonna make a private function in at the end of our body elements, and let's see. And it's gonna return an integer type. Let's say I'm gonna hold the total value in cache because I don't want it to be always calculated and recalculated inside the loop. So I'm just gonna make another variable here, and let's say it total value, and this is gonna and I'm gonna pass our array. So okay, we should be good. Let's make a for each loop in this time, and we are still gonna be using the data, but in this time we will pass this total value in our graph, and it's an integer type. So let's say our graph item, and it accepts the have that total value. Let's see it in action. All right, now we think about this item, individual item, and let's also pass it down to our sub element, and it's gonna be a type of I'm sorry, graph bar graph item, no, bar graph data. So let's pass down item is equal to item, and let's start using it. For example, text should be item dot name, of course, so we can make sense of the data set, and we are gonna need to make some basic math calculations to calculate width of the second capsule and to calculate the percentage value, and I'm gonna make these as a computed property as well because it's very easy and fast. Let's say it in set width, and this is also gonna be a float value, and I'm gonna open some parentheses and will return item dot value x maximum width divided by the total value. Actually, I'm just gonna make the math with all the CG float values and will return a CG float. And let's use it in here. All right, now all these ratios is dynamically calculated, but actually we have a very subtle bug, because if our data is bad and give this subview full of zeros, this object will be trying to make this math with dividing these values by 0, and if this happens, gonna be crashing your app formidably. So I'm gonna say if total value is equal to 0, just return 0, and this should be good. Or I can say, all right, this is more safe. I'm also gonna make a compute property to calculate percentage, and it's actually gonna be an integer because integers precision should be good for us for these purposes. And we also make the check for the 0 in here as well. All right, we have a working graph, and we can give it as many data as we want. I'm gonna make one more thing in terms of color. I want the color to be also dynamic, and I'm gonna make another property, and this is gonna be returning some color. I can say let's make a switch statement and evaluate the item's value. Let's say if it's smaller than 29, we can return some kind of red, maybe. All right. And in case it is between the 30 and let's say 59, we are gonna return some kind of a orange color. Let's see, what colors do I have? This looks good. And for the rest, we are gonna be returning green. Okay, system green looks good. And as default, we can also be returning the orange color. Let's try it out. And of course we need to use it in here. Let's see. This should be enough. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching and stay healthy. Goodbye.